welcome everyone. A quick word on our logistics today. Thanks to Deutsche Telekom, we have an all-day live stream in the room next to us on your left-hand side. All our coffee breaks will be in the demo area as well, where you can have the chance to witness the latest innovations. Should you need anything during the day, please don't hesitate to approach any of us. I wish you a great day. And now it's with great pleasure to introduce our CEO, Mr. Tony Eid.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for being here with us today. It will not be long as well because Jeff also will have a little speech, but just I want to address really a big thanks to our sponsors and partners for today. Smart Dubai, Accenture, Do, Huawei, Deutsche Telekom, Google, Qualcomm, Ericsson, PCSW Global, Nokia, Saudi Telecom, NextGen, Mytel, Comarch, Yahlife, Comscope, GBI, IPT PowerTech, NextVan, Bix, Medco, and Drive. Thank you, enjoy the day, and welcome again.
Good morning and welcome to the 6th Annual Telecom Review Leaders Summit. My name is Jeff Seal, and I'm the Managing Partner and Editor-in-Chief for Telecom Review North America. I want to welcome all of you to today's global event. As you know, Telecom Review is a global marketing brand, and this event has now become a global event. It's always held in Dubai, and we want to thank all of you for being here. This year we've added a demo area, as was referenced earlier, so that you may see the latest products and services from many of the people from around the world. In the demo area today, you're going to see services and products from Do, Qualcomm, Comscope, Deutsche Telekom, IPT PowerTech, Nokia, and Comarch. Now today we've got hundreds of people in attendance, and there are many thousands of others that are dialing in from locations around the world. This live streaming is being done courtesy of our partner Deutsche Telekom. Today's agenda is going to give you an opportunity to meet many people from different walks of life and different countries from around the world, and you'll be able to hear insight from many different companies and leaders in our business today. Now, without further ado, I want to introduce our first keynote speaker. His name is Tom Loozen from Accenture. Tom, we're going to welcome you up here. Thank you.
My name's Tom Loos, indeed. I run the global communications industry for Accenture. And besides that, I have the pleasure of working directly with Vodafone as a client worldwide to help them become a better company. So first of all, it's a pleasure and it's an honor to be here with you today. I'm going to share in like 15 minutes our view, my view on the situation in the telco industry, the role of the telco as we see it, the opportunities ahead. And you will see that there is a lot about smart networking, which we think is very important. Our term in terms of smart networking is operating from the middle, and I'm going to show you how that works in our view. Okay, before we go into to telco specifically, I believe that there is 5 specific trends which are shaping many different industries and which are basically changing the world, the way the world works and lives. And the 5 are depicted here on the picture behind me. And I would just want to talk to them shortly because I think it's an important element to understand if you're going to look then into telcos and what their role is. The Internet of Me, that's a summary statement for what we see happening in terms of all the technologies allowing a very specific user experience these days. And the things which come to mind when we wrote this is, for example, virtual reality, augmented reality, intelligent clothing. There is a huge amount of technology available today and being applied which allows you to make things very, very specific to the user experience. And we'll also speak later about smart cities and smart shopping. Think about iBeacons, think about Wi-Fi location, which allows you to be very specific in how you address the customer. And that's a very important trend, which is not just having an impact on telco, but everywhere. The outcome economy is close, but not exactly the same. This is about being able to provide services, not just things. There is, I think, one funny example to give, which is there is a theater in Barcelona, and the theater is supposed to make people laugh, and you actually pay for the amounts of time that you laugh. So every time you laugh, I think it's something like 50 euro cents that you have to. So how do they do that? They basically have cameras, they have analysis going on real time to actually allow that experience and to also charge you for that experience. A simpler one is the ability these days to find a parking spot. So not just directions and fixed marks to get you on your way, but really an app which allows you to go to a very specific place and pick up that service. The outcome economy. Platform revolution, this is about what Facebook does, what Apple does, getting to a situation where you have developers, where you have users, where you have your partners, where you work with all these different entities to, fuel ideas, make yourself better. And it's not just these big ones, it's also increasingly so companies like Philips or Monsanto, who work with their partners, who work with their clients to share information and with that get to better service in both directions. Intelligent enterprise, the key here is basically around big data or small data, but ultimately it's about being able to gather data, do analysis and get people making better decisions or getting them to serve clients better or getting them to better way of buying things, rolling out networks. So that is very much what we call the intelligent enterprise. And the workforce reimagined is grouping for us all the things which are happening around the human-robot interaction. It's about digital assistants, it's about wearables, it's about mini-bots, and increasingly so there is an interaction between what you do as a human and what you can let be done by a robot for artificial intelligence. And those 5 things, in our view, and that's all powered by faster processing capacity, by broadband speeds which are increasing, by storage prices which are falling. Those 5 are really defining the new industries and definitely also the telco industry. So what is happening in the telco industry specifically, going a little bit deeper? I think one key thing which happened with the introduction of the iPhone is that where previously telcos were owning the customer, they were determining the services, that was gone, right? And if you can see on the slide, you can see that these days the apps are what is the user interfacing with, and there's a variety of apps that everybody uses. So there is no clean ownership, it is more like a sharing. And on the next picture, what you can see is that not only are the Googles and the Microsofts and the Facebooks of this world offering what you could call traditional telco services, also increasingly so, consumers give them the trust that they would actually be doing a good job in getting those, in providing those services. You can see Google up there, 35% believes that they are very good in providing broadband. You can see that they have the trust to also be providing messaging services, 26%. So increasingly so, these companies are in the domain of the telco. And the other thing that I want to stipulate is that although some of telcos think that their sort of safe harbor is in the network, as you can see, there is increasingly so initiatives also to be playing in that space. Right? Google Fiber already was in Kansas, it was in Austin, it's now getting into San Antonio, Salt Lake City. They have plans to go into Los Angeles, plans to go into Chicago. Will they be coming here? I'm not sure of that, but they're definitely invading. SpaceX is the low orbit satellite communication from Elon Musk, which is basically intended to say, well, I'm not sure we need all this fiber, we just go through satellites and air, which is actually faster even and probably cheaper. So those initiatives are happening. And with that, I would say attacking the core of telcos. Now, the good news probably is that increasingly so, the world is in need of communication, is in need of infrastructure, more infrastructure, faster infrastructure, and also in need of more secure and more reliable quality of service. We call this the smartphone dividend. So as a consequence of the smartphone and the whole proliferation of that, many different elements which come with it have sort of been accelerated to make them faster, to make them smaller, to make them cheaper. With billions and billions of smartphones divided over the world these days, cost of all these things have fallen. And what you can see is that there is whole industries now changing, leveraging on all the, well, you could say inventions and innovations being done around the smartphone industry. Into robotics, into content, automotive, and definitely also smart cities, something that I'm going to speak a little bit more to in a second. This basically outlines the scale at which it is happening. 212 billion sensors, 50 billion devices, networks, APIs, so companies are actually opening up their internal capabilities to be connected with users, with other companies. Huge amount of apps getting in there, and the amount of data that we're having available and available to derive intelligence from is just staggering. We're speaking about what we call living services. So increasingly so, companies are able to provide a service to a client, which then can be updated remotely, which can be tuned to a client based on context, based on your behavior, based on what you've just been doing, or based on what you're actually doing right now. So what's the role of the telco? So we looked at networks, and having networks clearly is an advantage. Having spectrum is an advantage. We think there's a couple of more very important points that telcos have and that they could leverage. We think locality, being very close to your clients, but not just close to your clients, also being close to providers, being close to enterprises, being close to governments, being close to content or media providers is an advantage, which we feel that generally telcos are not exploiting enough. It's a bit strange, you could almost say, that Netflix seems to be better able to predict what, well, I'm from the Netherlands, you know, what Dutch people like to watch. You would expect Dutch companies to be actually very good at that, with a history of 30, 40 years of being in that country, knowing all the media companies and knowing typically the preferences of those people, just to give one example. Telcos have usage data, and on the left, what is depicted there is basically the trust that clients have, that consumers have, that a company will treat their data in the correct way. And as you can see, there's like 35% of the people trust telcos with their personal data. Well, if you're going to look at social media companies, it's like 17%, so just half of it, which we think is a very important element, especially as, I would say, apps and connections used to be primarily about media and fun, but if you go into elements like healthcare or critical transportations, being sure that that data is correct, being sure that that correct data is treated in the right way is increasingly so important. So we believe, I believe, that there is a role for telcos to play, which is primarily into operating from the middle, connecting with all the different entities in the ecosystem, and bringing them together for more prosperity. Here are some examples. On the left, there is a quick check on healthcare as an industry and all the different elements which are happening in healthcare and how connectivity is relevant to each of those different elements. And on the other side, you can see the more media consumer-like partnerships which are arising, but also corporations happening in the enterprise industry, where, as said, data and security of data, quality of service are more critical than ever. Here's another example, maybe more tuned to telcos. The LTE network, which through LTE Direct allows you to have consumers who use LTE, be directly communicating to each other within a distance of 500, 600 meters without any antennas needed, which I guess allows telcos to be playing in an ecosystem at hardly any cost, which are not so straightforward for other companies to play in. The ultimate sort of cumulation of what I was saying is what we call an integrated digital service providers. So telcos really becoming the company for all things digital, not necessarily to produce all those services, but to be operating from the middle, be connecting with the providers, be connecting with the consumer, be connecting with enterprises, connecting with governments, and on the basis of that position, and then using their locality, using their spectrum, using their relationships, using the user and users data, and using their billing relationships and brands, really exploit that position to help the company and help themselves to a good future. Becoming an integrated digital service provider does require for you to be good in quite a few things. Now, as we only have 15 minutes, I'm not going to go through all the details here, but there is 4 layers at which we feel and think that telco should be investing and should be becoming very good. To quickly go top to bottom, the first one is around what we call the core infrastructure. This is where SDN and NFV play in the network to make networks, cheaper, but definitely also more flexible, being able to scale up, scale down, being able to place security where it's needed, being able to have a very tuned quality of service commitment to clients, which you now can do with these new technologies in a much more flexible and tuned way than in classical ones. Cloud, allowing you to upscale, downscale, depending on your needs. Digital operations is the second layer. I already spoke about the intelligent enterprise. So here we believe data in action, getting the smartness that you have in the hands of people who can make a difference towards clients is a very important one. And also the partnership shows up there. This is not just about APIs. This is also about scanning for the right partners, getting them embarked to you as a company, being able to deal with them as you go forward, advanced revenue sharing models, potentially commercial models which allow you to really cooperate. There's a whole thing around partnerships beyond, I would say, just the simple technology connections. Digital engagement is around the customer experience, trying to get that in a smart way done such that clients can evaluate your product, your service in all the different touch points, and that after the evaluation they can also on the spot order what they think is a service which is helpful to them. And then on digital services, very simply said, we think for consumers it's all about video and content, and for enterprises it's all about IoT and security. And let me close down with giving you two examples on both of those. So in video, in a very short overview, we see that this is happening. Media companies are going direct through over-the-top. Telco companies are increasingly getting into the space over their broadband, IPTV, over-the-top TV, different ways. And you can also see that CPE manufacturers are going into this place. And the key thing, what we believe will make a difference ultimately, is yes, the ability to go to all the different media devices, whether it's iPads, PCs, smartphones, IPTVs, big screens, small screens, but certainly also content is determining the success. And there's a few examples there from Sky, BT, Verizon, Netflix, how they're spending really huge amounts of money in sports, in commissioning specific content, in commissioning own series. And it seems really that content ultimately will make a difference, because if you look at the above, you can see that basically all of these telcos are offering quad play, they are offering many channels, so the differentiation seems to come from content more than anything. In terms of enterprises, this is a quick overview of all kind of smart city initiatives going on. I think the key point here around smart cities is a very good definition of what it is that you actually care about. Do you care about security? Do you care about entertainment? Do you care about logistics? Do you care about, commerce? Maybe it's all those things together. But if you look at this, you can see that there's different elements which are important in different places. In Amsterdam, trying to become a more green city is an important initiative. In other places, it's more about security. So the needs of the city and the needs of the people in the city, we believe, should really be driving ultimately what you're then offering and what you would call a smart city. And to further illustrate that, is there a role for telcos? Absolutely. We think the very important element here is to keep the user experience, the user needs, the needs of the citizens really central, and build on that basis, use the technology and use the data to help accommodate that experience. You can see the example of Waze. Waze is an app which allows you to travel fast and get a lot of information during the way. The example is just there to illustrate how Waze basically is using technology to get to a great user experience in line with what we think something is that should be happening in smart cities, and where we believe telcos can play a huge role. So it is about networking, it's about smart networking. Looking forward to the rest of the day, and thank you very much for your attention.